snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys! So I am here today because I've already done a video where I talked about some male authors that I want to read, and now I'm going to be doing the female authors I want to read. So the first one I have on my list is Elizabeth Moon, and I own Sheep Farmer's Daughter by her, which is book one in the Deed of Paxenarian. Paxenarian, Pax for short, is somebody special. She knows it even if no one else does yet. No way will she follow her father's orders to marry the pig farmer down the road. She's off to join the army, even if it means she can never see her family again. And I'm going to read you a little sample, like the first page or first few paragraphs of the book, so that you can kind of get an idea of what the writing style's like, and you can tell me which author you think I should read next. So let's do that. In a sheep farmer's low stone house high in the hills above the three firs, two swords hang now above the mantelpiece. One is very old and slightly bent, a sword more iron than steel, dark as pot, forged so the tale runs by the smith in Rocky Ford. Yet it is a sword for all that, and belonged to Canis once, and tasted orc's blood and robber's blood in its time. The other is a very different matter, long and straight, keen-edged, of the finest sword steel, silvery and glinting blue even in the yellow firelight. The pommel's knot design is centred with the deeply graven seal of St. Gerd. The cross hilts are gracefully shaped and chased in gold. The children of that place look at both swords with awe. So that is Sheep Farmer's Daughter. Let me know if you vote for Elizabeth Moon. The next author I have is C.J. Cherryh, who is apparently a Hugo Award winner, and this is Fortress in the Eye of Time. It's quite a chunky book. It feels very dense. It says, a ruined tower in a vast forest is the haunted home of the world's last great wizard, Moriel. Chapter 1. Its name had been Galician once, a city of broad streets and thriving markets, of docks crowded with bright-sailed river-craft. The shrines of its gods and heroes, their altars asmoke with incense offerings, had watched over commerce and statecraft, lords and ladies, workmen and peasant farmers alike, in long and pleasant prosperity. Its name under the Sihi lords had been Yifnel. For 9 centuries, 4 towers reigned here under that name as the forest crept closer. The one-time citadel of Galasini in those years no longer stood as the heart of a city, as a ruin-girt keep, stronghold of the foreign Sihi kings, under whom the river Lanualim's shores had known a rule of unprecedented and far-reaching power, a darker reign from its beginning, and darker still in its calamity. Now, forest thrust up the stones of the old streets, whin and blackberry choked the standing walls of the old Galasini ruins, blackberry that fed the birds that haunted the high towers, old forest, dark forest of oaks long grown and sapped by the mistletoe and vines, ringed the last standing towers of Yvnel on every side but riverward. So that is The Fortress in the Eye of Time by C.J. Cherryh. The next one I have on my list might be hard for you to believe because pretty much everyone seems to talk about her if they're a fantasy reader, and she seems to be one of those old-time classic fantasy writers who I just haven't got to yet, and that is Mercedes Lackey. I have The Mage Winds, which is a bind-up edition of a Valdemar omnibus. It includes Winds of Fate, Winds of Change, and Winds of Fury. Now, I don't know if this is the first one in the Valdemar series or universe, because I had a hard time trying to find out which one to start with. So I have this one, but if it's not the right place to start, please do let me know. High magic was lost to Valdemar centuries ago when the Herald Mage gave his life to save the kingdom from dark sorcery. But now the realm is at risk again, and it falls to Princess Elsbeth, herald and heir to the throne, to defend it. Abandoning her home, Elsbeth seeks a mentor who can awaken her untrained mage abilities, and soon learns that others too are being caught up in a war against sorcerous evil. Prologue. The Legend. Long ago, in the days of the first king, for who the kingdom of Valdemar is named, it came to the king that he was growing old. Valdemar had led his people out of the hands of a tyrannical monarch and had no wish to see them fall again into the hands of tyranny. He knew that his son and heir was a worthy, honest man, but what of his son's sons and theirs? He longed for a way to determine who would be a worthy successor to the throne, so that Valdemar the kingdom never needed to become less free than it was at that moment. So he went into the fields and the gardens beside the palace, alone, and wrought what was half a prayer and half a spell, begging all benign powers for their aid in this desire of his. As the last rays of the sun died from the sky, there was a mighty wind and a shaking of the ground, and out of the grove of trees before him came a being like unto a white horse. and it spoke into his mind. Then came a second and a third, and before Valdemar could think to question why these came, his own son and his chief herald came to the place as if they had been called. And these two beings spoke into their minds also, saying, I choose you. So did the king know then that these companions would choose only worthy folk to bear them company for all of their lives, and that these folk would be the instrument of justice and the honour for all of the kingdom from this moment. And that is the start of that. The next author I have is again a pretty iconic one, and that is Ursula Le Guin, who I have not actually read any books by, but I've heard that the Earthsea Quartet is one of the most popular, and that's what I have, so I think I'll start with this one. I've heard that this is kind of pitched as a children's series, but it's also quite slow, so it might be more of an adult one, I'm not sure, but I'm going to give it a go. Chapter 1, Warriors in the Mist. The island of Gaunt, a single mountain that lifts its peak a mile above the storm-wracked northeast sea, is a land famous for wizards. From the towns in its high valleys and ports on its dark narrow bays, many Gauntish man has gone forth to serve the lords of the archipelago in their cities as a wizard or mage, or, looking for adventure, to wander working magic from isle to isle of all of Earthsea. Of these, some say that the greatest and surely the greatest voyager was a man called Sparrowhawk, who was in his day both dragon lord and archmage. His life is told in the Deed of Ged, and in many songs, but this is a tale of the time before his fame, before the songs were made. He was born in a lonely village called 10 Alders, high on a mountain at the head of the Northwall Vale. Below the village, the pastures and ploughheads of the vale slope downwards, level below level toward the sea, and other towns lie on the bends of the river Ur. Above the village, only forest rises, ridge behind ridge, to the stone and snow of the heights. The name he bore as a child, Dunny, was given to him by his mother, and that and his life were all she could give him, for she died before he was a year old. His father, the bronzesmith of the village, was a grim and unspeaking man, and since Dunny's 6 brothers were older than him by many years, and went one by one from home to farm the land, or sail the sea, or work as a smith in the other towns of the Northwood Vale, there was no one to bring up a child, and that is the start of the Earthsea Quartet. So, interesting. The next author I want to read is Angela Slater, and I own Vigil by her. I believe an urban fantasy. Verity Faesbender has her feet in 2 worlds. Her mother was human and her father weird. Though she has very little power herself, she does claim unusual strength and the ability to walk between worlds. Beginnings. The night moved. Liquid sheets of black spread out and then folded back in on themselves. The breeze, seemingly benign, made its way down Robertson Street. It picked up pieces of garbage as it went. Discarded newspapers, chip packets, soft drink cans, cigarette packs. It plucked detritus from the gutters, sweeping all it could find into an ever-growing, swiftly forming body. It looked like a figure, a man of rags and trash and darkness. Had anyone been paying attention, they might have noticed when it began its journey, turning off Brunswick Street and taking the slow incline, that sound of footsteps had become inaudible. But as the road sloped, drawing further away from the lights, as the whirlwind picked up speed and mass, the noise of anything remotely human was lost. Sounds pretty intriguing. The next one I have is Flewelling, and I have to say, when I asked for recommendations a while back on Twitter about female fantasy authors who I might not have read, Flewelling came up so many times. You guys constantly recommended her, so obviously I had to pick up her book. When young Alec of Kerry is taken prisoner for a crime he did not commit, it is certain that his life is at an end. But the one thing he never expected was his cellmate, spy, rogue, thief and noble. Segregal of Rimini is many things and none of them predictable. Prologue. Mouldering bone crumbled beneath their boots as Lord Mardus and Vargral Ashanzai lowered themselves into the tiny chamber beneath the earthen mound. Oblivious to the pervasive odour of swamp and old death, to the dank earth filtering down the back of his neck and into his hair, Mardus crunched across the bones to a rough stone slab at the back of the chamber. Brushing aside brittle ribs and skulls, he reverently lifted a small pouch from the stone. The rotted leather fell to pieces at a touch, spilling 8 carved wooden discs across his palm. It appears you have accomplished your purpose, Vargral Ashnazai, Mardus smiled, and the scar beneath his left eye tightened. Ashnazai's sharp, sallow face was ghostly in the uncertain light. With a nod of satisfaction, he passed the hand over the discs, and for an instant their form wavered, giving hint of their true shape. After all these centuries, another fragment reclaimed, he exclaimed softly. It's a sign, my lord. The time draws nigh. A most propitious sign. Let us hope that the remainder of our quest is as successful. Captain Tildus? A black-beard face appeared in the rough opening at the top of the mound. Here, my lord. Have the villagers been gathered? Yes, my lord. Good. You may begin. I shall make preparations for safe conveyance of these, Vargol Ashnazai said, reaching to take the discs. And what could you do that the ancients have not already done? Mardus inquired coldly, pocketing them as casually as if they were gaming stones. There's nothing so safe as that which appears to be worthless. For the time being, we will trust in the wisdom of our ancestors. Ashnazai quickly withdrew his hand. As you wish, my lord. That one sounds pretty intense. I'm definitely drawn to this one, but let me know what you guys think, because, yeah, it sounds awesome and I'm very intrigued. Definitely tell me if this is one you like. The next author I have is Juliette Morelli, who writes the Seven Waters series. I have started reading Daughter of the Forest, which I will put on the screen because I have it on my Kindle. I'm enjoying it. It is very slow to begin. It's one of those quite classical style fairy tale-esque stories. It definitely has action, but it is a slow burner. I am enjoying it, but I haven't got that far through and I don't want to spoil it, so I won't tell you guys any more about it. But if you want me to read some more Juliette Morelli, let me know, because I have only just really started her book. I'm not that far through and I'm definitely intrigued. The next one I have on my list is a slight cheat because I have already read some books by this author, and that is Megan Lindholm, which is actually a pseudonym for Robin Hobb. They are one and the same. Neither of those names is her real name. Her real name has a combination of all sorts of things. So this one that I own is Harpy's Flight. I also have this one, which is The Inheritance, and this is a short story collection which is written by Megan Lindholm and Robin Hobb, who are one and the same. Apparently, Robin Hobb's stories are more epic fantasy. I've read all of her stuff, and Megan Lindholm's stuff is a lot more urban fantasy, a lot more fast-paced, action-packed, that sort of thing. So I'm definitely intrigued about both of these, and I do want to give them a go and give them a fair chance, but I'm not really sure if I'll like it as much as I like Robin Hobb. It's going to be an interesting one. I might start with this one just because I know that I've got some Robin Hobb in here, and I know that I've got some Megan Lindholm, so it might be a good way to sort of ease me into her stuff. So I'm going to read you a little bit from this one, and we'll just start with the first story, which is called A Touch of Lavender. We grew up like mice nesting in a rotting sofa, my sister and I, even when I was only 9 and she was an infant. At night, when she'd be asleep in the curl of my belly and I'd be half falling off the old sofa we used as a bed, I'd hear the mice nibbling and moving inside the upholstery beneath us, and sometimes the tiny squeakings of the newborn ones when the mother came to nurse them. I'd curl tighter around Lisa and pretend she was a little pink baby mouse instead of a little pink baby girl, and that I was the father mouse curled around her to protect her. Sometimes it made the nights less chill. That is Megan Lindholm. Let me know what you think and whether I should try her out. I'm sure I will at some point, but let me know if you want me to try her first or sooner. The next one I have is another author I've been meaning to get to for ages, and I just haven't. I own 2 of her books. Both of them are the first one in a series. So that is Kate Eliot. I have Spirit Gate, which is the first one in the Crossroads series, and I have Cold Magic, which is the first one in the Spirit Walker series. So I'm going to probably start with this one just because it says that there are dragons in this. It says dragons dream, mages scheme, and innocents die. So I'll read you a little bit from the start of this one. The history of the world begins in ice and it will end in ice. Or at least that's how the dawn chill felt in the bedchamber as I shrugged out from beneath the cosy feather comforter under which my cousin and I slept. I winced as I set my foot on the brutally cold wood floor. Any warmth from last evening's fire was long gone. At this early hour, Cook would be just getting the kitchen stove going again, 2 floors below. But last night I had slipped a book out of my uncle's parlour and brought it to read in my bedchamber by candlelight, even though we were expressly forbidden from doing so. He had even made us a sign, a little contract stating that we had permission to read my father's journals and the other books in the parlour, as long as we stayed in the parlour and we did not waste expensive candlelight to do so. So that is Kate Eliot. Let me know what you think and whether I should pick up some of her books soon, because I have owned these for ages and I definitely want to give her a try at some point, but I'm so torn. I need your votes. I need you guys to help me out. And the final one that I have to show you is The Clan of the Cave Bear, which is by Gina Paul, and I have heard great things about this series. I believe it's kind of in a similar vein to J.B. Jones, who you guys really know I enjoy a lot. and I've heard just really good things about this. I believe it's pitched as a children's series. It says, the first novel in Jean M. Au's magnificent epic of life in the last ice age, a classic tale of adventure, love, and bravery. Chapter 1. The naked child ran out of the hide-covered lean-to towards the rocky beach at the bend in a small river. It didn't occur to her to look back. Nothing in her experience ever gave her reason to doubt the shelter, and that those within it would be there when she returned. She splashed into the river and felt rocks and sand shift under her feet as the shore fell off sharply. She dived into the cold water and came up spluttering, then reached out with sure strokes for the steep opposite bank. She had learned to swim before she learned to walk, and at 5 was at ease in the water. Swimming was often the only way a river could be crossed. The girl played for a while, swimming back and forth, and then let the current float her downstream, where the river widened and bubbled over rocks. She stood up and waded to shore, and then walked back to the beach and began sorting pebbles. She had just put a stone on top of the pile of especially pretty ones, when the earth began to tremble. The child looked with surprise as the stone rolled down of its own accord, and stared in wonder at the small pyramid of pebbles shaking and levelling themselves. Only then did she become aware that she was shaking too, but she was still more confused than apprehensive. She glanced around, trying to understand why her universe had altered in some inexplicable way. The earth was not supposed to move. The small river, which moments before had flowed smoothly, was rolling with choppy waves that splashed over its banks, and as the rocking stream bed moved at cross purposes to the current, dredging up mud from the bottom. So that is that one. As always, do let me know which one you guys think I should read, which author should I pick up. There are so many good ones, and I'm very intrigued by so many of the beginnings, which makes it even harder for me to choose, so I definitely need you to tell me down below if you've read any of these authors, if you like their series, or if you have recommendations for them, and definitely which one I should start with, so please do that down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video very soon. Bye!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.